All right, everybody. Throw on the agenda in there. We'll get started in a few minutes. Let's wait one more minute and then we'll get going. Okay. I think we can get started. What do you think, Amanda and Genevieve?
Sounds good, yeah.
Okay. Well, let me introduce myself. I'm Brett Weissel. I'm the Global Policy and Advocacy Lead at ECDAN. And thank you all for joining us and for participating in this meeting. I know things are busy at the end of the year, and I find myself complaining that everybody's trying to stuff meetings in before January, but then I find myself doing the same thing. So I appreciate your time and I appreciate your willingness to join us today. Um, so I think I shared the agenda in the chat, but ultimately, what we want to do is hear from you today, and we'll explain that in a minute. But I want to start off with introductions. We have a small enough group here today where I think we can turn on cameras and say hello and get to know where you're from, what organization you work with, etc. So again, I'm Brett with ECDAN, and I'm the Global Policy and Advocacy Lead. And ECDAN is part of the Global Initiative to Support Parents, along with PLH. And so we'll share a little bit about that if you're not familiar with GISP. So I'm just going to, for ease of this, I'm just going to call your name, and then you can just turn on your camera and do a quick introduction. Over to you, Genevieve.
Thanks, Fred. Hi, everyone. Genevieve Hopjohnny here from GPI, Global Parenting Initiative. There's so many acronyms going around. I'm based at UCT in South Africa. Hi.
Thanks, Genevieve. Over to you, Amanda.
Hi, my name is Amanda Germanio. I'm the Global Coordinator for the Global Initiative to Support Parents. And I think I've met some of you on this call before, but not all of you. So it'll be great to get introductions for those of you I don't know. And I'm based in Washington, D.C.
Thanks, Amanda. And Amanda, Genevieve, and I, and some others from our teams have put this meeting together to hear from you. So just as an FYI. Okay. Please, apologies if I butcher your name also. Asa? Or is it Aka from Issa? I'm sorry.
Aisha?
Aisha, sorry.
Yes.
Thank you,
Yes,
Amanda.
no. No worries, no problem. Yes, my name is Aicha. I'm from ISA Regional Program Manager. ISA is International Step by Step. You can hear me well, right?
Yes.
I have been some technical issues. We are the International Step by Step Association. I'm happy to be here. We're excited to see and explore how it goes. It's good to see the colleagues as well here. Thank you.
Thank you. Maggie.
Hi, it's Maggie. But you have absolutely no way of knowing that. Hello, everyone. My name is Maggie Marks. I'm the Communications Director for the Global Parenting Initiative. So I work very closely with Jane.
Got it. Thank you. Emily.
Hi, everyone. My name is Emily. I'm with the Peace Culture Foundation here in Thailand, and it's part of the Global Parenting Initiative Network.
Okay, Saisuri.
Hi, everyone. My name is Saisuri. I'm from Peace Culture Foundation from PLH Thailand, working with Dr. Amrit. Nice to meet you.
Thank you. Grace.
Hi, everyone. I'm Grace Boutrous. I am with the Arab Network of Early Childhood. I am the Senior Partnerships and Development Coordinator. Nice to meet you, most of you.
Thanks, Grace. Mayasha.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Nyasha Manjengenja, and I'm the Senior Technical Advisor from Clowns Without Borders South Africa, and we are a capacity building partner of the Parenting for Lifelong Health programs. Thank you.
Thank you. Sheena.
Hi, I'm Sheena from Lively Minds, and I'm the Special Projects Lead.
Okay, Heidi.
Hi, I'm Heidi from IRC. I'm Senior Project Specialist for Ahram Simsim, our early childhood initiative in the Middle East.
Thank you, Heidi. Kate.
Hi, everyone. I'm Kate Doyle. I'm a senior fellow at Equimundo and also with the Prevention Collaborative, and I'm based in Brussels in Belgium.
Thanks, Kate. Nomsa. Do we have you, Nomsa?
Hi, everyone. Can you see me?
Yes.
Okay. My name is Nomsa Manari. I am a program coordinator with Stepping Stones International Botswana.
Thank you. Joel.
Hi, good evening. I'm Joel, representing IRNEC, doing knowledge management for IRNEC, and I'm currently in the Philippines. Thank you.
Durgesh.
Hi, everyone. I'm from Parenting for Lifelong Health. I'm systems manager based in Malaysia. And previously, I worked with Amanda as an EGDAN fellow as well. Nice to meet everyone.
Nice to meet you. Richard.
Hi, colleagues. My name is Richard Stavo. I'm with Catholic Relief Services based in Zimbabwe, and I'm the head of programming there. I've been working very closely with Clowns Without Borders South Africa and PLH. Nice meeting you all.
Thank you, Richard. Holly.
Hello, this is Holly. I'm not going to turn on my camera. It's early here. I just rolled out of bed. But I'm Holly Malcolm. I'm with ISPACAN. We're based in Denver, Colorado, and I'm the Global Membership and Marketing Chair for ISPACAN. It's nice to meet all of you.
Nice to meet you. Evelyn.
Good morning, good evening. I'm Evelyn Santiago. I'm from the Asia Pacific Regional Network for Early Childhood. Thank you.
Tosin.
Hi, colleagues. Good morning. My name is Tosin, and I work with UNICEF Advocacy Specialist leading on mental health and parenting. Great to meet you all.
Thanks, Tosin. Did I miss anybody? Huguette.
Hi, everyone. I'm Huguette Diakabana, and I'm the Director of Programs at Parenting for Lifelong Health, and I'm based in Switzerland, and it's good to see you all again.
Thanks, Huguette. think that's everybody. I know it takes a few minutes for the introductions, but I think it's helpful for all of us to at least see faces and names and connect the dots there. So again, thank you for joining us. Let me walk you through our agenda really quickly. And then ultimately what we want this opportunity to be is to hear from you. And I'll explain, we have a few discussion questions that we have for you. We hope that you all contribute. Please think of this as an informal discussion. What we want to do on our side is take notes and listen to you so that we can form this community practice in a way that best fits your needs. And so just a quick overview of this concept of community of practice for scaling parenting support. It came about because there's a central question around oh, I'm sorry, I jumped the gun here, Amanda. I always do that. Before we get into the details, we just want to share a couple of minutes around the Global Initiative to Support Parents and explain what that is. Some of you are familiar with it, some of you may not be. So Amanda's going to share a few comments on what GISP is and what it's trying to do. Over to you, Amanda. Sorry about that.
No problem. And thanks, Brett. And I'm going to be just very quick because I think a lot of you are already familiar either through our regional convenings or from familiarity with our technical working group or other resources there. So I will be very quick, but just to say that the Global Initiative to Support Parents is a platform to bring together different actors working across sectors, across the life course, and across regions to support parents and caregivers. So not just early childhood, but also adolescence, violence prevention, child protection, mental health, nutrition, education, bringing together the different actors that all support parents and caregivers across different outcomes to improve the lives of children and families. So GISP came together during the pandemic because there was a need identified to support parents and caregivers at a time when social services weren't as accessible and everyone was at home. But also there's clearly an ongoing need for parenting caregiver support. From the Global Status Report on Preventing Violence Against Children, we know that only 26% of governments say they are reaching all parents who need it. So with this in mind, a group of partners came together to form and initiate the Global Initiative to Support Parents with a vision to enable all parents and caregivers to access quality and evidence-based parenting support according to their need. So GISP works with governments, with academics and researchers, with program implementers, with donors, and with parents themselves to work to provide programs that support parents and caregivers and according to their need. And this can be at different levels. This can be broad population-based interventions, or it can be more focused one-on-one interventions, depending on parents' needs. So GISP isn't something new. Instead, it intends to build on existing frameworks like the Nurturing Care Framework, the Inspire Handbook, Helping Adolescents Thrive Toolkit. So we do have resources about supporting parents and caregivers already. The goal of GISP is to really bring together these different frameworks and models into one place and to connect the actors working on these different in these different sectors to have a more coordinated effort to achieve support for all parents. So GISP works across 4 pillars: advocacy, evidence generation and knowledge sharing, innovation, and scaling. And this group really brings together 2 of those things, which is advocacy and scaling. And we really want to hear from you to help inform how we work with civil society and other partners to hear more about the work that you're doing on parenting support and the resources that you need to support that work. So again, I'm just going to pause here because I think a lot of you are already familiar with GISP, but that's a very quick background for those of you that aren't. And I'm also very happy to answer any questions about GISP. We have our website, which I'm going to put the link to in the chat for anyone who would like to look around further. And also feel free to reach out to me with any questions you have for any interesting thing. But I'm more interested in hearing from you, so I'll pass back over to Brett to start on the questions and consultation.
Thanks, Amanda. Indeed, yeah. In the interest of time, I think we'll proceed just so we can maximize this time hearing from you. So, as Amanda mentioned, the reason we're here today is there's 2 components of GISP that have come together, and the central question is how do we support partners working at the country level to scale parenting support as GISP? And so we came up with this idea around a community of practice, and we would try to provide a platform for sharing knowledge and experiences and expertise from the country level and trying to lift that work up so that others can learn and benefit from it. And so we envision this platform as an opportunity, I think, to create to create a space for having substantive strategic dialogue and strategy discussions around what's been effective, what the lessons learned are, what tools are valuable or tools that are needed, and ultimately how, to try and support the advocacy movement around the parenting agenda. So the purpose of this meeting today is to hear from partners like you that are working in this space at the country level that are deeply engaged in this issue, and so that we can design this community of practice, which we're defining really broadly at the moment, but to design this community of practice in a way that meets your needs and that leverages your expertise. And so we have a series of questions that we have for you as a discussion. We've created a Jamboard that will give you a few minutes to sort of collect your thoughts, write it for those of you who are more inclined for writing, but also we hope that it's a back and forth discussion as well, and that you can feed and build on one another. So I'm going to share the Jamboard link in here, and all you do in the chat, and all you would do is click on the link. And for those of you who have used it before, you just kind of take Post-it notes and stick them to the different questions and share your thoughts in that way. But before we get going on that, Jen and the GPI and PLH team, anything to add or clarify?
No, I think that you've explained it quite nicely. And I think also the fact that we've shared the concept note beforehand was quite useful as well. So thanks, Brett. Nothing from my side.
Okay, I am going to share my screen, and you can all take a look at this, but you'll need to click your link. Click the link in the chat to get you to the Jamboard. And so we're going to take like a minute or 2 or 3 minutes or so, depending on what's needed, just to throw this question out there. And share your notes by clicking on this sticky note here. So all you do is click the sticky note, type something, throw it in the Jamboard. This is going to help us document. But it also, again, some of you are auditory, some of you need to write things down. And so this should hopefully will be the best of both worlds. But ultimately, I think the first question we have for you is, let me stop for a moment and see if you have questions first, actually. Anybody have questions or clarifying questions or thoughts before we jump in? Okay. All right. Okay. So the first question we have is, how might a community practice on scaling parenting support advance your objectives, your goals? Ultimately, what we want to be able to do is drive the work at the country level and support you. What would be most helpful? This is intended to be broad, so share thoughts. Thank you for whoever posted the first Post-it note. So we're going to take a couple minutes, collect your thoughts, share some ideas, and then we'll open it up for discussion. Try and group these as best I can, if that's possible. Okay, please continue to write. I think we're seeing a lot of synergy here, which is exciting. But does anybody want to chime in verbally and share a little bit about their thinking and what would be most helpful for them? Anybody?
Hi.
Yes, please. Thank you.
I will try to go first. I will first maybe I'll introduce myself. My name is Nisreen and I am from the Moroccan Foundation for the Promotion of Preschool Education. We have been working in Morocco with the Ministry of Education to spread the preschool education all over the country. Our preschool rate in Morocco today is about 80%, which is not bad. We have been working on many subjects, but not much on parenting support. And really, I would like to learn about approaches and all the experiences, of course, successful experiences, because it's something that we would like to do. It's very important for us, for example, to improve our assessment. You know, we try to assess children development and the development of their different skills, and we think that working with parents is also something that could also help in this area. We also, parent involvement for us is very important to improve the quality of the education also. So it's a subject that we haven't been working much on, and we would really like to learn about all successful approaches that have been put into practice by other countries. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that. Anybody else want to chime in before we do a quick recap and move to the next question?
I just want to say, so I know that what I've noticed in my brief time in this space is that sorry, I'm having issues with my camera, but that there is sort of the common thread in most of the discussions that I've been in, where people are trying to do parenting programs at a country level. There is a need sort of to demonstrate its value to decision makers, and so amongst, I mean, it's what everybody else is saying. It's sort of, you know, exchanging, learning from each other. But I also see a group like this can do a lot in really positioning parenting programs and in a critical place at country levels, but not sort of, it's like, oh, it's nice to have type thing, but as in a critical component for a country's future, a critical component for, you know, ultimately a sort of a better global environment. And then I was in a discussion group recently where we discussed sort of how robust parenting program could be helpful in various areas, including health. For example, if we're treating mental health issues, trying to figure out how much, you know, putting parenting programs in a place where we have enough time to get evidence and demonstrate how much having these robust programs can sort of be helpful down the line, into the point where it might even decrease certain expenses, you know, prison, health burdens in countries. So I think a group like this is really a starting point in building towards that larger impact, in addition to everything else everyone has said, so the very practical comments that everyone else has made on the board. Thank you.
That's great. Thank you. I mean, I think, yes, we're seeing a lot of alignment here, which is great to hear, and it aligns with our initial thinking as well. So that's great. But it seems like front and center are sharing and learning. I see some comments around exchanging tools, and that is going to be part of this as well that we're hoping for. But really, it's a platform to learn from one another and to share and to promote right? And I think your comments around bringing the data, the return on investment argument, like I think that's a key piece to this puzzle that we can lift up, and you know, you all can learn on how countries are using data, framing data, but also some of the research and around outcomes. So this is great to see alignment and a lot of similarities in terms of the needs. Okay, next question. What are your biggest challenges in efforts to scale parenting interventions, and what gaps do you see? So let's take a couple of minutes to do the same thing, share your ideas, and I think about like what's really the primary challenges that you all face at the country level. So helpful. And our will agree. Keep writing. But does anybody want to chime in verbally and share their thinking or share takeaways from this Jamboard? Anybody want to jump in?
I could jump in here. This is Kate from Equimundo and the Prevention Collaborative. I mean, I
Please.
see like the government ownership and leadership and funding is a big thing. And I think one of the things particular to funding where I've been seeing a challenge is that, you know, both donors are wanting to see more government engagement and direct funding as you scale. But at the same time, because you're bringing in funding, government is seeing that there's this opportunity for them to continue to get funding for scaling without necessarily having to demonstrate that direct financial link. So it's sort of this like tension of yeah, how do you demonstrate ownership and get funding at the same time as you're, you know, continuing to bring funding to the government. So yeah, it's sort of a challenge I'm grappling with.
That's a great comment and relevant for work across in every policy area. I think it's a challenge and a tension. Anybody else?
I can also share, Brett, from
Yes, please.
From the engagement that we have with our regional learning group or community of practice on parenting, but basically looking at playful parenting programs, and practices. And what we're hearing, you know, from the countries that are part of that group is that there is a lot of good program practices, but not necessarily evidence. And so I think that, we should put, a distinction between, good program practices, happening as part of these parenting initiatives, but the evidence is really limited, and because most often evaluation, or an M&E is not, a strong component of these parenting programs, and so there's very limited opportunity to really capture evidence that can support scale up and institutionalization.
Thanks, Evelyn. That's really helpful. And, this is an opportunity also for the learnings from the regions to feed into the global as well. Emily.
Yeah, I just wanted to share that, yes, that one of the things that we've seen as a big challenge is the high cost per parent of particularly the group-based PLH intervention we're working on, but of many kind of evidence-based, group-based parenting interventions. They can be quite costly to implement, and that's because it takes time to significantly change parental behavior. So many of these behaviors are entrenched. It's not a quick fix. You often need to have collaborative learning methods. You need to use role play. You need to have a series of sessions oftentimes. So we're finding that to be challenging in our context. And also, given that upon trying to expand and having government ownership, there's this pressure to cut down on sessions and to lose fidelity, which would potentially reduce the effectiveness of our particular intervention, but even more broadly speaking, other evidence-based interventions. And that's always a struggle with scaling up parenting interventions, is maintaining fidelity as you expand. So we're already seeing those pressures, I would say, here in our context.
Thank you. Yeah, that makes total sense. Anybody else want to share and chime in?
Yes, sure. Thanks.
Please.
Yeah. What I've also observed from Zimbabwe is that the lack of an institutional framework on guidelines in terms of standardizing implementation of parenting interventions then sometimes leads to fragmentation in terms of various parenting initiatives being implemented, and even sometimes lack of coordination. So you may have a number of interventions being implemented, but because you do not have a coordination mechanism to account for those interventions, it then becomes a challenge. So that national framework will also come in handy in terms of informing scale.
It's a great comment. I see a bucket of posts around this need for frameworks, and whether it's M&E framework or an implementation framework. I see comments around evidence generation. These are things that the Global Initiative to Support Parents were formed to do. And I think that this feedback is really helpful because we could lift it up to GISP, but also GISP can be that platform to for creating these types of frameworks and pushing them out to the country level. So I see a lot of connection there, valuable connection there. And not surprisingly, the government buy-in piece is really front and center here, and that, as always, is a challenge with scaling. And I'm an advocacy person, and I expected that to be prevalent. I also see some of the interministerial collaborative need in figuring out, how to implement some of these interventions across ministries, and I think that's something that I bet partners will have experience with and ideas to share. It'll take us some time, I think, to organize all these thoughts, but this is really helpful. Nyasha.
Thanks very much. Yes, thanks very much for your comment, Brett, around the willingness of GISP to support governments in developing that framework. I do want to comment, though, that what we are experiencing from some governments is that they are actually questioning who needs to be responsible for defining and developing these frameworks, because the challenge we are having with the parenting programs that are currently being implemented is governments are now starting to ask, when are we going to have our own homegrown parenting programs? In as much as they see the value in the parenting programs that we've been disseminating with mostly NGOs and civil society, there is also the feeling that we now need to, from those frameworks, develop and define our own ingrown parenting programs and interventions. And so I see that in as much as there is value in supporting the development of frameworks, it needs to be done in such a way that governments are seen to be taking lead and giving direction, as opposed to it being a framework that's developed elsewhere and then they are given to adopt it, no matter how good it is. I think it will continually re-emphasize the feeling that this is not homegrown, it's coming from elsewhere. So I think for me, the challenge, maybe not challenge, but the question is, how can this be done collaboratively in such a way that governments take lead and we only support that process? Because if it comes from us to them, it remains the same as the challenge we are having with the parenting programs currently being implemented.
That's such a great comment. And I see culture and context here a few times and totally agree. Amanda or Jen, do you want to chime in here? Any thoughts before we move on to the next question? I think that comment is particularly relevant.
Yeah, no, just to jump in and say that I completely agree with Nash's point. And this is one of the tools that we're working on to develop now, is actually to analyze different parenting curricula and the specific behaviors that they target. And then that way governments can look at what behaviors they would like to target in a program, and then that way look at curricula and help to develop their own programs that way. So that's one tool that we're working on that we're hoping to launch in 2024 that will hopefully address some of those concerns. But I agree with you that it's a very relevant and valid comment. And Heidi, I see in the chat, has also added a comment too. But that's all from my side before we go on.
Yeah, great comments. And I think my experience with frameworks and that sort of thing is they should inform the country approach. They should not drive it, right? And so we can create these at the global level. We can create global goods and resources, but those are intended to be adapted and informed based on the local context, not to be taken as is. Heidi, yes.
Just going to add to all this. To be honest, our project, I think, has had less successes on the parenting side, but drawing on what we've been working on with governments on more of the child-facing, because we have, both parent-facing programming and child-facing programming. What we found is most valuable is like, what are we bringing in as this external entity, and what is the role of the ministry, exactly to the point raised earlier about things being seen as and truly are a ministry owned and run program, right? That is not something external. And what we've been evaluating is that we bring in, first of all, of course, the funding to be able to do things like spend enough time to bring in the learning from these other frameworks and things like that, and then experiment, because often the ministries are working with, whether it's health or education or social development, don't necessarily have the time in their staff or the funds to devote to trying to test something out and develop a new thing and pilot and train and all those things. And so when we've been able to bring in, like, that's really our value add. Sometimes some technical expertise, but often the ministries have their own quite strong technical expertise, right? So we're bringing in these other pieces of it. And I think in saying it out loud, it often feels like a no-brainer, but I think everyone on this call probably can see the places where that doesn't often happen. And so other ways that this group can support both the, like, where is the evidence from around the world and what are some things that can be brought in, and then that guidance for those coming in to support ministries to design something new, and to test it and have that flexibility to adapt over time, which again, like the governments often don't have that with really strapped budgets to say, oh, we're going to try something and test it out and then, scale it up.
Yeah, great comments. In the interest of time, I think we'll move forward. There's some helpful comments in the chat. Excuse me, but by the way, this conversation is what we're talking about. I mean, I think this is what we envision for the for the community practice, and for you all to come and share and discuss. Okay, next question. What lessons learned do you have to share? And where are you seeing success and progress? I think I saw a couple comments in the chat about it too, but please do share. We'll take maybe 2 minutes to post it, and then we'll discuss. I wonder if this one's a little more difficult. Interesting.
Hi, can I speak?
Yes, please.
Yes, so that's like a very general question because there's a lot of lessons learned, but to be able to share, it has to like, are we talking about implementation, about partnering, about working on the ownership of governments, about designing these programs, about the content, because there's a lot of lessons learned in many places, and all of these factors together contribute to making the scaling up much easier, much more accessible and reachable to parents, to mothers, fathers, and to all parents, really. So I'm confused as to what to write because there are so many things I can share depending on what we're talking about specifically.
Yes, I understand, Grace, but it's purposefully broad. Whatever comes to mind. I mean, I think you're right. Maybe it's too broad and that's too difficult, but what we're trying to do here is start to see if categories emerge, or specific strategies that need to be highlighted because they are relevant across contexts and countries, as well as highlight progress, highlight examples and case studies where you're seeing you're seeing the government get the buy-in that's needed. You're seeing the cross-sectoral collaboration. Some of the things we saw in the previous question. Does anybody want to share what they wrote or share a takeaway from the post-its here? Anybody? Maybe this one is too broad and a little bit more challenging, but I think we're seeing some helpful ideas emerge here, champion building, evidence, and that sort of connects to the previous conversation. Any thoughts before we move on?
Great. I think this talks to the fact that we might need a couple of sessions just on lessons learned that can be shared. Just in what Grace has just shared as well. There's just so many things with lessons learned and the positives and the negatives that go with that. But I think this does definitely start to highlight that and gives us a sense of what it is that we can ask people to be more specific about in subsequent sessions.
Yeah, and I saw a comment earlier around what is not working and highlighting that, and I think that's another important concept for us to capture. Okay, why don't we move on to the next question? We saw this emerge in a previous discussion, but around tools. And so, what tools or resources are you using that have been helpful? Maybe we can even cut out the word advocacy and just, tools or resources that have been helpful in your country, or that have been useful. Or what tools or resources are needed? What would be helpful? And this goes to like the role that GISP can play in terms of generating public goods. What would be like key messages or case studies or one-pagers or, things that you can adapt to your context. So let me stop talking and just give you a minute to think. I anticipated this one to be a little more difficult. Hey, I love it. I want to hear the story behind that one. Does anybody want to jump in and share? Please also be sure to organize some of these if you've used them and they've been helpful, or if you haven't used them and they are needed. Any thoughts from the group? Yes, Maggie.
Hi, sorry, I'm trying to figure out how to let you see me. I commented cake, and an old prof of mine always said an anthropologist's best tool when doing ethnographic research is, and this was a long time ago, is a cigarette and a beer. But I found in my previous role, more than the current one I'm in, that cake or just creating unstructured gatherings between people who truly need to speak to each other, often around a snack, very useful for advocacy more than anything else that I've found in my experience.
That's great. I'm seeing some things around testimonials and voices of parents and being sure to elevate that perspective. And it's something that within GISP we've talked a lot about. Obviously, that would need to be contextualized, but we certainly hear you on that. Okay. Any other thoughts before we move on? Okay, so now that we've sort of had this conversation, this is again intended to be a bit of a broad conversation, but you have a little bit more of a context in terms of what we're trying to accomplish. Please do share thoughts in terms. It could be how we structure it. Should it be big? Should it be small? Should it be both? We've sort of played around with this idea of having a larger group, but also a smaller group that kind of can help, a working group, if you will, that can help to inform agendas and act as spokespeople during and panelists and that sort of thing. One other thing to note too is some of you may have heard that there's been discussions around a global parenting forum. And Tosin, I think, had to leave. She could probably provide the most accurate update. But the hope is that to have that planned in 2024. The details are still, there's a lot of negotiation and logistical details that still need to be finalized. But one opportunity I think that we see is to think through how this group could connect into that global parenting forum and lay the foundation for the advocacy that will be needed, both leading up to it as well as after, and whatever emerges from that forum in terms of declarations or policy commitments or anything like that. So those details are still being decided, but wanted to share that generally because I know some of you have been wondering about it. But please, share thoughts, ideas, and you can just chime in verbally as well. I think we also recognize these conversations bleed into each other and there's a lot of overlap. But this is helpful. Shared repository for resources, yes. One thing that we will be doing is exactly that, creating a resource, a repository of resources on the GISP website, which Amanda shared earlier. And what we intend is to use that both to highlight and lift up the resources that you have developed or use, as well as create new resources based on what we're hearing here and in future discussions with this community of practice in terms of need. So we very much want that to be bottom-up driven, grassroots driven, if you will. Seeing unstructured and unstructured, seeing in sort of integrating informal discussions rather than just formal presentations. Evidence continues to pop up, gaps in evidence, gaps in data, support, advocacy. It's the in-person opportunities to connect. Maybe there's an opportunity at the Global Parenting Forum, for example. Maybe that's an opportunity for us to get together. Anybody want to jump in verbally or build on anything that they've seen here? think this is the last question we have for you. I see some comments coming in, so I'm going to wait. Jen or Amanda, any thoughts here or anything to add or discuss?
Just to say that there's a lot of great comments coming in, and I think there will be good opportunities to have both more formal as well as more unstructured ways of collaborating. So maybe like a WhatsApp group might be helpful along the line, so that people, when they have resources newly published or want to share something, that might be great. Or like an email group or something similar in addition to more formal meetings. So just to say that there's a lot of good ideas coming in here, and we can definitely.
Yeah, and to add, this is so useful as well, you know, just getting everybody's input, getting an understanding of what people would prefer, what they would like. And I'm sure we can do follow-ups as well with everybody that's joined, just to clarify any points as well. But I think this is so, so useful. And it's not just a matter of the three of us or our team sitting and trying to think of the best ways to reach everyone and to share and engage. So thank you for that.
Yeah, this was so great. I mean, this is the sort of stuff that energizes me personally, and I find it really inspiring because we're hearing directly from all of you in terms of what would be helpful. And so there's such great ideas here. And I think what we'll do on our end is try and we'll go through these, and we'll share this also with GIST partners. And if you have colleagues or other partners that you work with, please feel free to share this Jamboard for their input as well. I mean, the group we have here is, to be quite honest, a somewhat random assimilation of partners working in this space. It's not scientific. And so we want to hear from the partners working on this agenda. And you know, I'm excited to see synergies and parallels. I'm excited to see validation. I'm excited to see new ideas and some really specific recommendations. So in terms of next steps, what we will do is organize these ideas and begin to put together a strategy. I think we could probably build on the concept note that we shared with you, as well as start to organize our first meeting, which I think realistically is probably end of January, early February. And excuse me. And we will think this through in terms of agenda and speakers. I'm sort of hearing both formal and some sort of combination of formal and informal discussion. Again, I think we envision this to be a dialogue, and so what you're saying resonates. So we'll work on that. We hope to sort of keep, you know, we can keep this group and build upon it for input and ideas, and as well as sort of speakers and that sort of thing, because we want to make sure we're lifting up the work that you're doing through this community practice. So any final thoughts before we wrap up? Okay, see some chats here. Again, just eternally thankful for you and for sharing and for taking the time to share with us. So be on the lookout for some updates in the coming weeks, and we're excited about launching this. We're excited that you're excited, and we will follow up shortly. So for now, have a great afternoon, evening, and morning, and we'll talk soon. And if you have, please also feel free to share via email if you have any additional thoughts. You have Amanda's email. I'll add my email in here in case you don't have it. Please do not hesitate to reach out. There it is. Okay. Thank you all. Talk to you soon. And again, many thanks. Bye-bye.
Thank you,
everyone. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.